Hey, welcome back, everyone. Glad that we are and that you have chosen to join in and tune in to Trending Up. We are just excited to communicate again, and just as always, Edgar, how you doing, man?
Good. I'm doing great. I'm enjoying the transition from summer to fall
Mm-hmm.
here in the Northeast. I'm
Mm-hmm.
enjoying. My son is at school right now, and I'm just you know rolling with the punches.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm sure you are doing the same. So how are you doing?
dude, I'm doing good, man. The weather here, I don't know how it's for you, but it's been in like the 80s or so. Nice, warm. I think fall's coming here to Florida, at least here in North Florida. So the humidity's kind of leaving, not a lot of bugs, and so it's man. This is I think to me my favorite time here is like the winter time. Late September
Yeah,
all the way till like maybe April.
yeah.
Really beautiful weather, especially being in North Florida. It doesn't get as hot and humid as down south. We get kind of cooler, so yeah, man, it's been awesome, bro. It's been awesome to go out on walks with the dogs and hang out, be outside a little bit, and not have to sweat all the time because of humidity or get all these bug bites. So overall,
You know,
man, good.
as we both talk about how we're doing, the
Yeah.
thing weather is really impacting. Like, I think in the Northeast, when I first moved here, I wasn't prepared
Mm-hmm.
for the cold, for the fall. But now, for me, it's really impacting on how it just affects our whole life.
It does.
So yeah, it's really really interesting. Today's topic is one that I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is when I in the times that I'm catching a bite to eat in between naps or in between phone calls,
Yeah.
I like to watch like a little show, something on TV, and I've been going through the series What If on Disney Plus. What do you think about it? Just the idea, what if, and can you give like a 2 second
Yeah. Yeah.
introduction to it?
A recap. Yeah. So, firstly, man, I think this goes in line with what you talk about. You bring out a lot in a lot of our conversations, like the idea of reflection, right? Self
Yeah,
reflection,
yeah,
and thinking that. I think this is perfect. So, yeah, what if? It's another Marvel series. We've been talking about a couple of Marvel series. We brought them up, but yeah, we talked about Loki the last couple of episodes. But what if is a series by Disney Plus that pretty much shows like what would the Marvel universe look like, right? This world that Marvel created with the superheroes and all. What would it look like if events had gone differently, right? So you have each episode detailing a different person, right? So the first one's kind of talking about like Captain America when he became like a super strong soldier. What if it would have been him and it was actually someone else, right?
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
like Captain UK. And then you have like T'Challa from Black Panther. Like, what if he wouldn't have just stayed at home? And what if he would have gone up with some other scavengers throughout the universe? So it's just been very interesting to see the what ifs, right? You have a powerful episode, I think, on Doctor Strange, where he's just consumed with the love of his life and for those of you that don't know, Doc, this is obviously going beyond what you told me to do, Edgar. So I apologize, but hey, we're pastors. We like to talk. Doctor Strange has the time stone, so he's able to kind of go through time and go back, or different things like that. And so his love dies, and he's trying to change it, but then he finds out that it's like an unchangeable event in history. But
hmm
he's fighting so hard, and it consumes him so much to not be able to deal with the grief of losing his loved one and wanting to change things that he pretty much destroys the whole planet. And he's kind of which is beautiful, powerful at the right at the end. I don't know if you saw that, Edgar. The whole
yeah.
planet kind of surrounds him, and he's like enslaved and he's like imprisoned in his own little destroyed world, right? So it's a powerful lesson, I think, for us in that aspect. So that's the whole idea, right? What would happen in what we know of what has happened in the Marvel universe throughout the history of the movies and the TV shows, if things had gone differently, right? So what ifs, man? Did I do justice to that? I hopefully.
Yeah,
Is it?
you did. So we all expect a timeline, or we all
Mhm.
expect an order of events
Yeah,
that reflect what we know and what we trust happened. But in this show, there is a reflection on what if things didn't go exactly how we remember it. So like this brings us to like our own lives. Like
yeah,
what if you didn't graduate from college? For me, that's a big thing. Like
yeah.
those that know me well, my family lives in Arizona, and my family, when I told them I wanted to be a pastor,
Mm-hmm.
and then I said I wanted to go to Tennessee to study, they were like, my dad literally said no, and my mom was like, "You're crazy," and I'm
Yeah.
like, "No." My personality was like, "I'm gonna do it," and but I asked Michelle. Michelle and I would love playing what ifs and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I asked Michelle, what if we did it? And what if I didn't go to Southern? What if
Uh-oh.
Michelle did go? Like,
Yeah.
how different would our lives be? I wouldn't have my son,
You wouldn't have met
Sebastian,
Michelle. I mean,
Lucas.
potentially. Yeah.
Wouldn't
Yeah.
have met Michelle. Oh, I most likely would have not met Michelle.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So
We
so
wouldn't have
how
met.
how about yeah, yeah, we wouldn't have met. Yeah.
Yo,
What do
yeah,
you
there would
think?
be no, probably no podcast, man. Yeah,
No,
man,
no
there's a
trending
lot.
up.
Yeah, there's a lot of, there's like, the even questions of day to day, right? What if I can't pay my mortgage bill or my rent? And that can then go to, it's a different type of what if, right? In terms of a daily, yeah, it creates stress and anxiety. What if I would, maybe for you, what if I would have had a daughter instead of a son, right? How would that have changed anything, right? Would it have changed anything? Obviously, it would, but you know,
I don't believe in having the gender norms and stuff like that.
mhm,
Like if someone wants to play, anyways, whatever. I'm not gonna go into that. But the point is,
okay, yeah, yeah,
yesterday my son and our family went to his best friend's house, and we just
mhm,
played well, they played in the backyard and so forth. And
yeah,
there is a difference between having two boys and having the girl that he was playing with. It was totally different, and
yeah. The way they were
not
playing,
yeah, the
yeah,
way that they were playing, the way they were acting, the way the
yeah,
demeanor, it was just
yeah,
different. So like I know personality, but it's also with sex, or what people say
yeah,
gender.
yeah.
So anyways, yeah.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I mean, and then you also have, these other what ifs of like, to gauge how serious you are, hey, what if we ran away and got married? How serious about are you about our relationship, right? Or a lot of times, even when you're going through high school, I think that's was always a conversation, hey, if you love me, you'll do this with me, right? Or you're, we'll sleep together. What if we, what if this, or what if I became a millionaire, right? A lot of
Yeah,
these,
yeah,
what
yeah,
if I
yeah.
won the jackpot? What if I won the lottery?
What if
What
money wasn't an issue, right?
Right, right, right. What if we move to, to Hawaii? What would happen there, right? So you begin to, and all those situations have logical conclusions, right? Um, that are obviously not happening, but they really get your mind going. There's a couple funny ones too. Like, what if your house? Imagine this. What if your house was infested with snakes or crocodiles, right? Or if you lived here in Florida, um, what if you found out everything? What would you do? Would you have someone come clean it, or you would just say, "Hey, just destroy the whole thing. Let's get out of here."
Yeah, 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 yeah.
What if you could only wear one color the rest of your life? What would it be? I don't know, Edgar. You probably say,
I like the color blue,
"Okay,
but like
I'm
the old song. What was
I'm
it?
blue. I'm blue. If I was green."
Yeah, I would die. You remember the song?
Yeah, yeah. But I think they're actually saying blah 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 dee blah da da.
Oh,
No, no, but no, they're actually saying I'm blue.
no, no, I'm blue. No, trust me, it's I'm blue. I'm not that crazy. Yeah.
Because everyone says da ba dee ba da ba
Yeah,
da.
yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah.
But yeah, that's a crazy. That would be hard. What if everyone stopped working for 48 hours?
Yeah.
Our world would shut down. What would happen if everyone jumped at the same time and the same place in our world? You would move the world by only 1/100th of the width of a single hydrogen atom. It wouldn't even last because the Earth would bob back up again.
That's
Um,
hilarious.
and I guess the last one we'll see. What would happen if the world doubled in size? Yeah, the big what if.
Oh,
Tall trees would collapse because of their weight. And depending on your size, your bones and joints would struggle with the weight. Our
yeah.
hearts would also be in serious trouble because with more gravity, our extremities would pool with blood. In order to deal with the pooling, your blood pressure would have to double.
Wow.
So a lot of interesting what ifs through life. And the reason we're bringing this up and springboarding from the Marvel series, the Disney Plus series, What If, is because we believe even in trending up and your journey with God, you have moments where you ask these what if questions, right? Or you're reading through the Bible and you're like, I wonder what would have happened if this character that I'm reading about had done things
Yeah.
differently, right?
Yep. Yep.
What do you think, Edgar?
I this is a thing that each one of us deals with, is like, what if Eve had not eaten the apple, right? No,
Ooh.
or the fruit. But
Right.
that is making it a little bit more complicated. What if Adam,
Uh-oh.
right? So the scripture says that Adam and Eve both made the decision. So
Yeah.
it describes Eve first, but Adam had to be nearby, and also no
Mhm.
one force fed Adam to eat
Right. Right.
the fruit, right? The apple,
Mhm.
what we call the
Mhm.
apple. So the natural question is, what if Eve had eaten it and Adam didn't?
Hmm.
What would have happened? You
Mm.
know,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
would have happened if Adam had gone to God and said, "Look, Eve ate it. I love her. I don't know where she's at. Maybe she's
Mhm.
hiding. Maybe
Mhm.
I don't know. You know, this idea. What if?
Yeah, the what if is always, yeah, you don't really know for sure what would have happened, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So like these are the things
Mhm.
that come into my mind is
Mhm.
what ripple effects
Yeah.
happen
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
no action is isolated in it of itself.
Mhm.
Like every one of our actions have some kind of effect in our lives. And obviously, like for example, if you go to the store and you're trying to buy some socks,
Yeah.
that decision is going to be different than if you go and you, let's say you're inebriated, or you've drank alcohol, now you're
Mhm.
drunk, and then you get in a vehicle, right? The consequences of those decisions are going to be different, but they still have effects throughout our life.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, man. I'm thinking like, I don't know if you've seen those commercials where I think it's like, I don't know what, who, maybe insurances, and they're like, imagine you go here and then
Yeah,
you
yeah,
miss
yeah,
the
yeah.
bus, then you have to walk, then you get jumped, and then you lose your money. And then, and it's just like goes from there here, and all of a sudden it ends up with like, and then you don't have any college education. You drop out, you lose your house, and then you're sick. And so it's just like all these like, the the repercussions from that one
Yep.
decision, right? And so yeah, I mean in the Bible there's a lot. I mean, we can kind of talk about a few that maybe we've had, right? One that I kind of think about often is in just looking in Genesis and in the story of Abraham is like the different situation that he's in, right? And what if he would have done things differently, right? What if
Yeah.
Abraham had not, what if he had thought he was crazy with the voice of God saying, "Hey, leave this
Mhm.
country," and him, what if he would have
Yeah.
never left, right?
Yep.
Would God have, maybe I'm assuming God would have gone to someone else to try to start, this new people to tell about his glory and love with, but he goes, then you think about like, what if Abraham had trusted God and not had Ishmael, right? What if he had
Yeah.
waited on the timing?
So
Where would
so
we be today?
so you're saying, and to be more like blunt, what if Abraham had been committed to his wife Sarah
Mm,
instead of sleeping with uh,
uh,
Sarah's slave,
slave.
or whatever you want to call it? What if he didn't? You know, that's a big thing. Like for my mom,
Mm-hmm.
my mother. So my older brother, he's my half brother, and my mom, when she talks about her life experience, what if my mom had a relationship with my brother's father? She's like, what if I hadn't met him? You know, would my mother not been in the United States and met my father, and
Right,
then that's how I come into the world through that
right,
connection?
right.
So what if Abraham had not slept
Mm-hmm.
uh with
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 God.
Hagar?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, would
yeah.
Ishmael's,
Descent.
family
Yeah,
descendants still be fighting with
right.
Israelis? Like, like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
how would that work out?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's interesting, right? And what's interesting about the what ifs too is that if you think about changing one thing, it just has repercussions that would,
Yeah,
like for
yeah,
your example with your mom, right? She's like, well, I wish I wouldn't have met him. Well, that would mean there's no brother and there's
yeah.
no you. There's
There's no,
probably
yeah,
there's no coming here. So it's just a
yeah.
crazy web of like interrelation. They're just everything's interrelated. That it's just like,
No human is an island. Like we are all interconnected. That's what the pandemic and the way that the countries are trying to fix it. Some people cry, "Oh, they're taking away my freedom." Well, because our actions are interconnected.
our lives
They're
are, right?
not isolated.
Yeah.
They're just not, unless you live out in the middle of Siberia, like you're going to
But
be
even
connected.
then, I mean, those people are living out there in Antarctica. If you've seen them, those people that are scientists, if one of them takes a crazy decision or makes a choice that strongly, affects others, then there can be negative repercussions, right? So that's
Yep.
a very good point. Yeah, how even every choice we make, even if small, like should I wear socks or not, really can have not just lasting effects on us, but on those around us, right? And I think this is a great point for our conversation with what's going on today with COVID and vaccinations and how we come back to doing life again.
Yep.
That's a great point. But I mean, again, Abraham, what if, he goes to Egypt, and I think in two circumstances he's there and he lies about his wife because she's beautiful, about
Yep.
her being his sister. And then you see, right, with the one of the situations in Egypt, he lies about her not being his wife and says, "No, she's just my sister." Egypt goes, and then plagues come on Egypt by God, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Pharaoh's like, "Yo, why did you lie to me?"
Yeah.
Now, so it's interesting how in you, distrusting God, right, really affects those around you
Yeah.
negatively.
Yep.
So yeah, so what if he would have been, truthful to that? And it's very interesting to see because, like we said, right, a lot of things would have turned out differently. Um, in these stories of these. Oops, Siri wants to say something in the stories of the Bible, right? Another person too, and I think you could to speak more into it, is the story of Saul, right?
Yeah, yeah. The story of Saul really puzzles me in the sense that what if Saul? So in the book of Samuel, we're told that Israel eventually wants to have their own king, and they want to model themselves after other countries that surround Israel. So we need to understand that the way that God wanted to be the Israelites, the family of Abraham, God wanted them to be ruled, like everyone to be accountable to God. So this is totally foreign even for us. Like in the original intent of God, for God, was that God would be the king
Mhm,
of all the Israelites. You wouldn't need an actual king to be in their throne. And we read in First Samuel that eventually God, says, all right, all right, you want this, the what if, right? What if God had not said that, right? But God said, you want this? Well, you will, but there's repercussions, there's effects,
mhm, mhm, mhm.
taxes and wars, and all these things are going to
Yeah,
come out of it, right?
right.
And Saul is the one that is deemed or called to be the king of Israel. And what if
Mhm.
Saul had actually been the king that they needed for the time, in Earth's history, instead of
Yeah,
David? Because
yeah.
eventually we are introduced to young man named David. So what
Mhm,
if Saul, if you look at the life of Saul, he was more of a believer in God, as I'm trying to put this right way. He believed in God, but he lacked the relationship with God.
mhm.
So each one of us can know who God is,
Yeah,
but are we spending time with him? Are we, this is where, like, prayer, and in the time of Israel, the sanctuary services, is this is where our relationship is seen in how we, act and behave and so forth.
yeah, yeah.
So I say, what if Saul had been someone that was devoted to God? What if Saul had been tempered his jealousy? What if God had blessed Saul to be the king, the first king, rather than eventually be the, lead his own demise?
Mm, mhm.
So what if, right? So
Yeah,
I think that's something that we could really think about.
yeah, yeah. No, that's good. I'm actually looking for a quote because this morning I read a quote from a book, and I'm trying to see what I think it was. Deeply Formed Life. Um, and he makes a powerful statement that yeah, of just that mixture of that, just that we think that because we have that knowledge, that head knowledge, that we're good, but it
Yep.
hasn't translated to that relationship, right?
Yep.
And so you're like, oh no, I'm good because I know the truth, I know what I should be doing, I know this and that. And like Saul, right, not having that real relationship, kind of like he did with David, like David had with God, that really messed him up because he wasn't he really missed out on what could have been of his kingdom, right? I mean, even though God was like, "Hey, I should be your king," because no human is ever going to lead you right. There's always
Yep.
selfish intent.
Yep.
We see this to this day, right? When having
Yep.
leaders, it's
Yeah.
important to have leaders, right? But
Yeah.
that's
But
why yeah, that's why the last kingdom of the world is going to be God's kingdom as
yeah.
him as the king, right? So
Yep. Yep. Yep.
yeah, you go ahead. I thought you were going to say something, right?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna mention that this is why, like, okay, in our generation, we find in the importance of voting, and sure, yes, vote. I firmly believe in voting,
Yeah, yeah.
but I am very wary of the temptation to totally trust a politician. Like, man, politicians, just like any other leadership capacity, they can fail you, and most likely they will fail you.
Yeah.
And that's why you need to, yes, vote, but don't put all your eggs in one person. So eggs in your basket per se. Okay, sorry. So wh- what we really need to know is that God is the ultimate leader
Yeah.
in our life
Yeah.
rather than a person.
That's a great trending up balance act, right? Because people have sided either way, right? Either they've been super into making change here on Earth
Yeah.
that they miss out on, like, hey, this world is not your home.
Yeah.
And then the other side of just saying, hey, this world is not my home, so I'm not going to do anything here. I'm just going to wait for that new place to come, right? So there's this balance of you being active, like you're saying, of using your voice to speak out. If that means protesting or writing your legislators, voting, doing all those things. But there's also that reality that, hey, this world is not our home, right? So and it's gonna. I think that's where the kind of that freedom and that grace that you have with others, because some people may be more engaged and some people will be less engaged, right, in social stuff to help the communities, and so it's just being understanding that, hey, we gotta it's a delicate balance, but yeah, very 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 great point there. That yeah, no matter how much work we put into this, there's always going to be humans at the helm of this, and the best human to lead it, that's half God half human, or
Yeah.
fully God fully human, is Jesus, and that's why we're
So,
that's
Jesus totally challenges like what we just said in the sense that Jesus is human, but yeah, he's also divine, right?
yeah,
He's
right,
God.
right.
So like, so there is hope in human leaders, but
Mm-hmm.
the ultimate hope is in God, and Jesus is a perfect, what people would say, combination
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm.
such trust in humanity
I agree.
and in God.
Yeah, I wanted to read this quote, and then we can continue with the other what ifs. But this was just from the book, "The Messiah" from Ellen White, actually from Jerry Thomas. But he says in translating from the book, "The Desire of Ages" by Ellen White, he says the greatest error humans accepted in Jesus' day was simply agreeing to truth made a person righteous or holy. Just knowing about truth does not change a person's life. History shows us that those who claim to know the most about God often were the cruelest and the most evil. The beliefs of Pharisees, except experts on religious teachings, led them to kill the Messiah. Anyone who claims to believe in the truth but is not honest, kind, or patient is a curse to the world around them. Strong words, man. If you're not kind, patient, if you don't have the life and the love of Jesus, but you have the knowledge, you're technically a curse to the world. She's saying, it's just you're causing more harm than good because you're not really loving and living out in the way of Jesus. So powerful words, I think, that we see kind of in the story of Saul, and translating to the story of David, right, where David is a man after God's heart, but he has very visible problems that he has, right? You think of, hey, what if he had not slept with Bathsheba, right? Then Uriah would not have died. Bathsheba, the whole kingdom, begins to kind of crumble, fall apart. There may be no Solomon. So what happens then, right? Who becomes the next king? I mean, is there the wisest person? Does he exist? The wisest person on earth? A lot of interesting what ifs there. Um, yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I think just a handful, not to go into them, but what if Moses would have stayed in Egypt?
Yep.
And not gone, not felt the call to join his people? And what if he would have been like, oh, I'm cool where I'm at? What
Yeah.
if Joseph was afraid to? What Joshua was afraid to take Jericho? Would the people of God, would they have gone? Would Israel had gone to the promised land? What if Daniel had not been faithful in
Yeah.
Babylon? Right?
Yeah.
There might, it speaks to the idea of the remnant, right, and the people that remain. Like, yeah. Yeah. And lastly, for me, what if Paul hadn't turned to God, right? On the way to Damascus, the
Yeah.
light comes down, God speaks. He's like, I don't care. This is what I feel God wants me to do. And
Yeah.
God's like, no. Would he keep persecuting the church? Who would have been the premier theologian for the early church? So a lot of interesting what ifs, right? Obviously, we do have the story of what actually happened, and whether
Yep.
good or bad, we have that recorded, which is kind of cool. But a lot of what ifs in the Bible, which I think is cool, because it helps you, I think, um, connect with the Bible in a more deeper way, and seeing that the people in the Bible, they're not just, you know, static people, but they're actual real people that made real decisions and took real choices, and those choices had a lot of repercussions, right?
Yeah, something that we may be tempted to as people living in the 21st century in 2021 is that hindsight 2020, we think that all the decisions that are recorded in the Bible
Mhm.
were just the way it was supposed to be, you know, like that's just it. But in reality, we find that the people in the Bible had their own
Mhm.
challenges and their own wrestling, their own trying to figure it out. And as we reflect on like what if idea
Yeah,
is
yeah.
when we walk with the Lord, you know, the thing that we've been doing in for trending up for the last 2 years is giving tools on how to walk with Christ,
Mhm.
or how does that look like.
Mhm.
And something that we need to do is we need to humbly, and when I say humbly is, you know, we need to acknowledge that we may have like, you know, we wanted to be pastors, so we went to school to be pastors. Like,
Mhm.
if you want to do a certain decision in your life, you need to really ask God, is this it? Like,
Yeah,
is this
yeah.
what you want me to do? And God is, I am okay, 90%. I'll say 90%. I won't say 99, I won't say 95, but 9 out of 10 times most likely God is going to give you various possibilities within the realm of your life. And I'm not saying that God is opening every door. What I'm saying is that in life, there's going to be multiple doors to open. And the
Mm,
question that we need to ask is, which door does God want us to walk through?
mm.
And 9 out of 10 times, God is going to give us the freedom of choice. And
Right.
that is both at the same time great, but at the same time frightening, because
Mhm.
you could, in theory, make the wrong choice or take make a choice that changes your life in a way that maybe God didn't want you to. So this
Yeah.
is why what if that some people may be like, why are Sebastian and Edgar pastors, right?
Mhm.
Of the Seventh Day Adventist Church, even talking about what if Disney, right? If for those that may come from a background of hate of disliking anything that Disney does. The
Mhm.
reason we bring it up is because these what if situations are really important to us every day, and we need to come to God and say, Lord, make help me make the best decision, and whatever decision I make, guide me through it, because
Yeah, that's
there's gonna
good.
be moments that that's just it, right?
That's good. That's good. That's good. And I love that, just God just guide me through it. I think it's healthy, right? As we were kind of coming, to that point of like reflection, right? You've talked about it too in different episodes, and the importance of self-reflection, and like you're saying, right? Life is full of those what ifs. Sometimes it's good or bad. It's I think it's powerful to look back and see, man, like you said, right? If I wouldn't have gone to Southern, I wouldn't have met my friend. I wouldn't have met my wife. I wouldn't have the kids. I probably wouldn't have. Maybe who knows? I would maybe wouldn't have been a pastor. Wouldn't end up in New York.
I'm
You
pretty
know,
sure I wouldn't be a pastor if I
there's yeah, yeah, me too. Who knows? Yeah, if I would have stayed in tech, just everything changes. Which would be interesting.
But the thing is also there's like a million timelines, right? That's the whole thing that Disney is going through right now, is that there's like a bunch of universes
So whatever
that
action you make kind of creates. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so I think it's powerful, but in that, I think it's beautiful that God uses your journey, right? You mentioned this early
yes,
on, or which
yes.
He doesn't, obviously there is this clean slate when you come to Jesus, you get baptized. There is this new, but He doesn't restart. It's not like everything gets deleted from the back. It's just saying, hey, from now on, you're a new person, right? But your past is still there. You're still gonna have to work through it. There's gonna be things that trigger moments or emotions or feelings. But the beautiful thing is that God uses your mess, cliche. God uses your mess to give you a message, right? Or He uses your journey and what you've been through and the decisions that you've taken, right? And He's not like, yo, Sebastian, man, what if you would have done this instead? Like you wouldn't,
Yeah,
which obviously
yeah,
looking back, you're like, man, I wouldn't have hurt that
yeah.
person, or I
Sure,
would have
yeah.
been here and done that. But what the beautiful thing is that God kind of, like a GPS, He leads you where you are, and you get lost somewhere. He's like, hey, how do I get out of here? God said, yeah, let's go. I'll take you from here to where you need to go right now, right? So that's a beautiful picture of God, that in the stories of all these what ifs, right? That many of these what ifs could have been better. You know, Adam and Eve not having this, eating the fruit would have been better. David not sleeping with Bathsheba would have been better. Abraham trusting in God would have been better. But hey,
Yeah.
it turned out the way it did, and God was able to still use it and turn it.
Yeah, and I think that's where we need to show grace to us, to our for ourselves. Like some people may reflect on their life and really dislike the
Oh, I
decisions they
like that.
made,
I like that.
or really be disappointed with
I
the
like that.
outcome of this or that. But we need to show grace to ourselves and say, look, like despite what we've gone through, like God is with us, and He wants to guide us with the the life that we have before us. And this is something we um that we have to wrestle with and move on. Like I've been in I'm going to go to a the prison, Attica State Prison for New York this
Uh
week.
huh.
And I'm going
Ooh,
to
okay.
meet with an inmate there that has given his life to Jesus, which is awesome. But does that mean that he gets to be out of prison, even
Mm.
though he has a death sentence? Not death sentence. He has a, well, you could say death sentence. He has a sentence from 35 to life in prison.
Oh
Like,
man.
how
Wow.
does
Wow.
someone
Yeah.
now go move on? Right? Is there still hope? Yes, there is. Does that mean they're out of prison? It doesn't. What that means is that God is going to guide them through the path that they're in. And
Hmm.
despite everything, the Lord is with us. And that's really, really
Yeah.
important
Yeah.
for us to
Yeah.
consider.
And that's the key, I think, in trending up, right? That God, having this relationship with God in this journey, you're not exempted from life and the toils and the turmoil and the troubles, but God leads you in the midst of it, right? And
Yeah.
that's the beautiful part about God. But awesome, guys. Well, thanks for joining us in our conversation about what if. We hope you guys can follow us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube and whatnot. We love to hear from you. You can email us, you can DM us or PM us in any of those platforms. And so we hope to catch you next time. Just remember to keep training up. And yeah, we'll catch y'all next time. Peace.